Good evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Right Side Broadcasting coming to you with a news alert. President Trump has announced that he will not release, at least for now, he will not release the Democratic memo. This is the memo that Democratic members of the House Intelligence Committee composed. And this memo, the purpose of this memo was to argue that the Nunes memo, composed by Republican members of the House Intelligence Committee, was misleading, was inaccurate. That's what this Democratic memo is, a response to the Nunes memo, which was released last week. The House Intelligence Committee voted to release this memo, but they had to run it by President Trump. President Trump has said he will not approve it. He said there are some classified and sensitive passages there in that memo. He says he is open to releasing a redacted version of the memo. So we'll have to see what happens at this point. But let me just get you up to date on this, show you some of the things we're seeing about this. So, for example, Stephen Portnoy tweets, White House says Democratic response to the Nunes memo should not be released without requested redactions. The next step would be for the Intelligence Committee to decide whether to heed those requests or ask the full House to vote to release it without any redactions. So it looks like, from what Stephen Portnoy is saying, the Intelligence Committee of the House could either make some changes to the Democratic memo and get some passages out of there that the White House didn't approve of being in there, or they could have the House vote on whether to release the memo without any redactions to it. Now, I believe that the redactions requested by the White House are redactions of material which they think which is either classified or they think is sensitive, based on, and I believe the Justice Department had some input here and telling the White House what they thought of this memo. Let me see if I can clarify that for you, get you some more information on that. So again, at least for now, President Trump has said he is not going to approve releasing the Democratic memo, which is a response to the Republican Nunes memo from last week. But let me get you some more information about this. Kelly O'Donnell, I think she's with NBC. She reports White House letter says President has not declassified the Democrats' memo, but is inclined to do so. He ordered the Justice Department to help the House committee make changes to protect certain classified information. So President Trump reportedly is not comfortable releasing this memo now with certain classified and sensitive information in it, but he's open to releasing a redacted version. Hey, Christine Bestian made a donation. Thank you, Christine. We appreciate that. We're viewer supported here at Right Side Broadcasting, so your donations keep us on the air. If you want to donate, do it, Christine. Go to the bottom of the YouTube chat, click on the $ sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate. All right, so let's get more information on this. Fox News has a story up about this. Let's look at their story. Let me make sure you can hear me okay. Do what Christine did. Go to the... Good, you can hear me okay. Let's see what Fox News says about this. Trump orders revisions to Democrats' rebuttal memo, halting release. This just came out on Fox News site. Fox News reports the White House on Friday told Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee to redraft their rebuttal to a controversial GOP memo alleging government surveillance abuse during the 2016 campaign, saying sensitive details needed to be stripped before it can be made public. Now, I'm guessing some Democrats are going to say President Trump is just being difficult here. He released the House memo without any redactions, so he should be releasing the Democratic memo. That's an argument. I won't get into that argument personally here, but I'm guessing you're going to have some Democrats saying that tonight. Elizabeth Luker made a donation. Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, have a feeling it's going to be a long weekend and only 3 bags of popcorn. So this message about the memo not being released by the White House was sent to the House Intelligence Committee today in a letter from White House counsel Don McGahn. As I said earlier this week, the House Intelligence Committee had approved the release of the Democrats' memo, but President Trump had 5 days to consider whether to block the release of the memo. The White House letter for now halts the release of the Democratic memo. Democrats according to Fox News, have been expected to use their memo to try to undermine Republican claims that the FBI and DOJ relied heavily on the anti-Trump dossier to get a warrant to spy on a Trump associate, Carter Page, and omitted key information about the document's political funding. Democrats claim the GOP memo was misleading. In the Democrat memo, the point of the Democrat memo is to argue why the Nunes memo was misleading and didn't, and actually isn't a good argument. But we haven't seen the Democratic memo yet. We think Adam Schiff, head of a top Democrat in the House Intelligence Committee, said on Monday, we think the Democratic memo will help inform the public of the many distortions and inaccuracies in the Republican memo. But it was expected that, according to Fox, the Democrats' memo might raise red flags during the review period. Now, according to Fox News, a source who read the Democratic rebuttal memo told Fox News earlier this week that it is filled with sources and methods taken from the original FISA warrant request documents. The source argued this was done to strategically force the White House into either denying release of the memo or significantly redacting it so Democrats could accuse the White House of making redactions for political reasons. So according to this Fox News source, I have no idea if this Fox News source is accurate or not, but according to the Fox News source, this source told Fox News, look, what the Democrats did in their memo is they included a bunch of sensitive and maybe classified information from the original FISA warrant request. And the reason they did that is because that would make President Trump either deny the memo being released or it would make President Trump order redactions. And either way, the source says, it would make it look like President Trump was trying to hide something. Now, I have no idea if the source is telling the truth. I'm just telling you this is what the Fox article says. And then Trey Gowdy said during an interview this week on Fox News with the story with Martha McCullum that Democrats are politically smart enough to put things in the memo that have to be redacted. Therefore, it creates this belief that there's something being hidden from the American people. That's what Trey Gowdy said. So we have right now the situation is the Democrats have written this memo. It was ready to go last week, but the House Intelligence Committee originally said they were not going to release the Democratic memo at the same time as the Republican memo. Then about a week later, they voted to release the Democratic rebuttal memo to the Republican memo. But now President Trump has said he will not approve its being released yet. And he has said he's open to releasing a redacted version with certain sensitive passages no longer in there. So the general idea, I haven't read Don McGahn's letter yet, but I'm guessing the general idea of the letter is something like, look, so when the FBI and DOJ submitted their application for a FISA warrant to start surveillance on Carter Page, who formerly had worked for the Trump campaign, that application they give to the FISA court judge. That application they give to the FISA court judge, that application is classified. It's not publicly released. And within that application can be, and reportedly was, classified material. So, for example, in that application, the DOJ and the FBI might have said, they have to say in the application, they have to tell the judge, here's why we think Carter Page might be working for a foreign agent. So presumably, in the application they give to the judge, there's going to be stuff like, here's some intelligence we picked up on Carter Page. Now, that intelligence could be classified, and if you release that intelligence, not only do you release classified information, you might reveal a source. That intelligence getting out there might reveal the source of the intelligence. Maybe there's somebody in Russia who's providing us with that information. So there are reasons to not want, if the Democratic memo contains classified information, there are reasons to not want that classified information getting out there in public. So I'm guessing Don McGahn's letter on behalf of President Trump to the House Intelligence Committee tonight said something like, hey, this Democratic memo contains too much sensitive and classified material. If you get rid of this classified and sensitive material that we suggest you get rid of, or that the Department of Justice suggest you get rid of, then maybe then we'll be open to releasing the Democratic memo. So as as the Fox News story said, the White House says sensitive details need to be stripped from the Democratic memo before it can be made public. Now, I'm guessing some Democrats are going to say, well, this is just President Trump playing politics. They could have released the Democratic memo tonight if they wanted. They're just being difficult. So I haven't seen the White House letter yet, and obviously I don't know the details that are in the Democratic memo because I haven't seen it yet. Neither have you because it hasn't been released. Anyway, we'd like to get your thoughts on this story that the president is not, at least for now, releasing the Democratic memo. What do you think about this story? Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Amanda T. McGann writes in hashtag winning God bless America. Keck writes in, if the memo is authored by Schiff, flush it. Let's see here. LT writes, the Democrats probably forgot to take out of the memo all that Obama spying during the election. Hey, we got a donation from LC in Canada. LC says, thanks for always compiling info so quickly. Interesting and fun to be on live with you. That's very nice of you to say, LC. We appreciate that. And, of course, we appreciate your donations because your donations are what lets us be on the air. So thank you, LC from Canada. Jeremy Miller says, brilliant. Trump is going to make the media talk obsessively about this for a few days. Then when it's everywhere, release it, which will still verify corruption by the Democrats. Ooh, I think Milo Yinnop fans sent me the White House letter. Is this the one? I believe it is. How nice of at Milo Yinnop fans to send me the White House letter. So let me see. Let me just make sure this is the letter. But I'm guessing at Milo Yinnop fans didn't bother to come up with a like a parody version of the Don McGahn letter. All right, Milo Yinnop fans, I'm gonna go with your letter. I'm gonna assume it's legit. So I'm gonna read it on the air. Travel made a donation. Travel says CNN smells like butt. Thank you, Travel, for the donation. So thanks to at Milo Yinnop fans, we have a copy of the Don McGahn letter, the White House letter to Devin Nunes tonight, saying that the memo will not yet be released. Let's look at this letter from the White House. Okay, dear Mr. Chairman. So from what I've heard, it's actually written to the whole committee is supposed to get this, but it's written to the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes. Dear Mr. Chairman, on February 2nd, 2018, the president declassified a memo in response to a request by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. I noted in my letter conveying the declassified memorandum to you that the executive branch would continue to work with the committee in connection with its president, blah, 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 blah. On February 5th, the committee voted to disclose publicly a second classified, this is the Democratic memo. As I previously explained, the public release of classified information by unilateral action of the legislative branch is extremely rare and raises serious separation of powers concerns, blah, 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 blah. Accordingly, we once again treated the committee's vote to release the memo as a request for declassification pursuant to the president's constitutional authority. Fine. Consistent with the review of the previous memo, the president asked the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice to assess the declassification request for the Democratic memo and provide him recommendations. So what Don McGahn is saying here is that the president went to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice and said, look, Democrats want to release this memo. What do you guys, take a look at the memo. What do you guys think? Should we release it or not? The Department of Justice has identified portions of the Democratic memo, the disclosure of which it believes would create especially significant concerns for the national security and law enforcement interests. The enclosed letter from the Deputy Attorney General and the Director of the FBI explains these determinations in greater detail. So it sounds like there's an extra letter here, which I don't have, but the Deputy Attorney General, I believe that's Rod Rosenstein, and FBI Director Christopher Wray, they recommended some changes in the Democratic memo. They want some sensitive information removed. Now, remember, I believe the FBI also had suggestions for redactions for the Republican memo, but those redactions were never put into place, and the memo was just released as is. Anyways, let's continue. There are two more paragraphs in this letter. Although the president is inclined to declassify the Democratic memo, so this says the president is inclined to declassify the Democratic memo, because the memo contains numerous properly classified and especially sensitive passages, he is unable to do so at this time. However, given the public interest in transparency in these unprecedented circumstances, the president has directed that the Justice Department personnel be available to give technical assistance to the House Intelligence Committee should the committee wish to revise the Democratic memo and lessen the risks identified by the Department of Justice. The president encourages the committee to do this. The executive branch stands ready to review any subsequent draft of the February 5th memo for declassification. So basically, what President Trump says, what Don McGahn says, the counsel to the president in this memo, is that President Trump wanted to make sure it was okay to release this memo, Democratic memo. So he asked the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice to take a look at it. They looked at it, and both the FBI Director and the Deputy Attorney General have some recommendations of things to take out of the memo because they're classified and or sensitive. And in their analysis, it would be dangerous for the language here is releasing these portions of the memo would create especially significant concerns for the national security and law enforcement interests. So it could be harmful to national security and law enforcement. And this letter says, hey, look, if you guys want to revise the Democratic memo and take some of this stuff out, and our Department of Justice will help you figure out what to take out, then President Trump will be open to considering again whether to release it, and he's inclined to release it. Now, something I don't know, however, is I don't know what changes the Department of Justice is recommending and the FBI are recommending. You know, for all you know, the FBI and the Department of Justice want these different redactions from the Democratic memo. The Democrats might look at those redactions and say, well, wait, if you take that stuff out of our memo, then the argument our memo is making as to why the Republican memo is misleading, that argument will be unclear. The Democrats might say, we can't take that stuff out of our memo without basically destroying the argument of our memo. Because people need to know that stuff to understand the argument we're making in our memo. I don't know. I don't know if the Democrats will say that. I don't know what changes the Department of Justice and the FBI are recommending here. I'm just saying that an interesting issue here is, what exact changes are the Department of Justice and the FBI recommending, and are those changes the Democrats can live with, or will they think that those changes are too much and seriously undermines their memo? Now, I saw a tweet earlier, I think it was from Stephen Portnoy, I'm not sure. I think Stephen Portnoy is the one who tweeted out, somebody tweeted out that they thought one option the Democrats have here is the House Intelligence Committee could just put to a vote in the House whether to the entire House could vote on whether to release a Democratic memo, and if they vote yes, then the memo could just be released without the president approving of it. I don't know enough to know if the House would approve the release of this memo. I mean, obviously the House is not Democratic controlled, so I don't know what's going to happen. Will the House Intelligence Committee have the House vote on whether to release this memo, whether or not President Trump wants it? Will the Democrats come up with a revised version of their memo and send it to President Trump again? Will the Democrats just say, no, we're not going to revise our memo. You want these changes. That's unfair. You didn't ask for similar changes in the Republican memo. We're not going to make these changes. I'm guessing we'll have some response very soon if there's not response already from Democrats about this. I'm going to check right now. But in the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Again, President Trump, for now, refusing to release the Democratic memo, which is a response to the Nunes memo, which President Trump did allow to be released. What do you think about this? Write to me on Twitter, at Lookner, at Lookner. And a special thank you to at Milo Yanop fans for sending me that copy of Don McGann's letter. I appreciate it. John Emmett said, this is a CNN headline. Trump is not refusing to release the memo. Well, he is. Why are you saying he isn't? He's not releasing it right now. And he's not releasing it right now. And if you look at the description of the video, it says, President Trump will not release the Democratic memo. It was announced tonight. The president says there are classified and sensitive passages that prevent the release of the memo. And it says in the description of the video that he's open to releasing it if he's open to releasing a version of the memo with redactions made. But he's refusing to release it right now. So, Now, I'm not hiding that. We're not hiding that he said, I've said numerous times on this broadcast that he's open to releasing it if there are changes made, but he is refusing to release it right now. They asked him to release it right now, and he's refusing to release the memo they sent him. I don't think that's a misleading CNN headline. Maybe you disagree, John. You can write to me and let me know. Let's see. LB Truth says, Fox News Tucker Carlson has reported that Trump intends to release the Democratic memo, but needs intel people to review it for possible sources, methods, redactions. Well, I think that's sort of right, but what the letter says from the White House, it says President Trump not intends, it says he's inclined to release it if certain changes are made. What we don't know is what changes are being requested and will the Democrats be okay with those changes. It doesn't matter if so we don't really know President Trump's attitude here in terms of does he, Like, for example, one scenario is that they wanted a couple sentences removed from the memo. The Democrats won't have a problem with that. If that's the case, then the president is basically approving the release of the memo or saying, I'm going to approve it and just make these two little changes. But if the Department of Justice and FBI is requesting very significant changes to this memo and significant redactions, I wouldn't say at all that the president is intending to release the memo. The president might think, I don't know if the Democrats are going to make these changes. So I certainly don't think from what we know, it would be accurate to say, oh, the president thinks that the Democrats are just going to send him back the memo right away and he'll just release it. Catherine Rain says, are you Canadian? You say house like a Canadian does. No, I say house the way I learned to say it, but I am not Canadian. Anti-communist says, the Democrats blocked the first memo. This should be tit for tat instead of Republicans virtue signaling about being the bigger people by letting this memo go through. Trump should get something from the Democrats in exchange for releasing this memo instead. Now, why are you saying anti-communist, the Democrats blocked the first memo? They didn't. The Democrats in the House Intelligence Committee didn't block the memo because they had a vote on it and the Democrats were outnumbered, so they were outvoted. And then the memo got released. So I'm a little confused with what you're saying when you say the Democrats blocked the first memo. But feel free to write to me again, anti-communist, and clarify your point. Rocky Sanchez writes in, the Democrats have been caught creating that fake dossier and meddling with our elections. Why would President Trump release a basket of lies memo by the Democrats? Fake news, CNN and MSNBC are in tears. I just want to reiterate this point again because I think it's important. Some people, we've gotten a couple people who wrote and said, hey, no, President Trump, he's not refusing to release the memo. He intends to release it. There's got to make a couple changes. That's not we don't know that right now. All we know is that President Trump has said he is inclined to release the memo if the requested changes are made. But what we don't know is what are the requested changes, how many of them are there, and are those changes the Democrats can accept? If the president says, I'm open to releasing a memo if changes are made, and those changes are not acceptable to the Democrats, then it wouldn't be accurate to say, oh, the president just is intending to release the memo really soon. I mean, that would be it would be more accurate to say the president is refusing to release it for now, and he's putting the ball back in the Democrats' court. So I just want to be clear. We don't like to, we like to tell, we like to be, we don't want to mislead anyone here. We like to be truthful and accurate in our reporting. Grant writes in, how long before Schiff leaks it? Interesting, Grant. So Grant raises this interesting idea of let's say the Democrats don't want to make any changes in their memo. Let's say the Democrats are like, well, we don't want to make these changes. Look, the Democrats, they want this memo released as is. So they clearly feel that whatever classified or sensitive information is in that memo, it helps their argument in the memo. So let's assume the Democrats don't want to make redactions to their memo. What Grant is wondering is, would Schiff release it, or would some other Democrat release the memo? Now, with leaking a memo like this, I think could be, if it was just a memo with no classified information, I would think that'd be more likely. The problem is if you leak a memo with classified information, I think that might be a crime to release classified information. So I don't know if you're going to see a leak of this memo. I don't know if it's worth it to the Democrats to release this memo, to have whoever's releasing that memo, whoever would be leaking it, would be, I think, committing a crime. So that it's kind of a risky move. I don't know, but that's a little extra consideration here. Davis Deaton writes in, anything at risk. Oh, by the way, I missed a couple donations. Oh, I hope they're still here. I see one still here. Oh, I think they're still here. Miss Rob Mob made a donation. Thank you, Miss Rob Mob. Miss Rob Mob said, thank you for all you do, Steve, Right Side Broadcasting Network, and moderators. God bless you all. You do a great job keeping us updated on breaking news. Thank you, Miss Rob Mob, for your donation. Those donations are what keeps us on the air. We are viewer supported. Joey Fountain made a donation and said, people forget how smart our president is. Hello, he won't be set up. Love, 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 live RSBN. Thank you, Joey. Yeah, and also look, about the letter which says President Trump is inclined to release the letter, we don't know what's going on there in the White House. For all you know, maybe President Trump really does feel these are minor changes. The Democrats are going to make these changes, and I'll release the letter as soon as they do. That's one thing President Trump could be thinking. Another thing President Trump could be thinking is, well, I'd rather not have this memo released, so I'm going to suggest some changes, and I don't think the Democrats are going to want to make these changes. But I'll still say I'm inclined to release it if they make these changes. We don't really know what President Trump's thinking right here. So I think there's lots of different possibilities. And I don't know what he's thinking. I haven't been in the White House lately, so I'm not going to assume I know. Davis Deaton writes in, anything at risk of compromising national security should never be publicly released. Strong move by the president for keeping the interest of American safety first. This just shows that the Democrats are willing to harm the safety of Americans in order to block and interfere with the president's agenda. Great coverage, Steve, as always. Thanks. Thank you, Davis, for writing in. Now, I will say, Davis, if a Democrat from the House Intelligence Committee were here, what they might say in reply to your comment is they might say, well, look, the FBI said, people from the FBI and DOJ said some of the stuff in the Republican memo could compromise national security, and President Trump released that without any redactions. So to be fair, shouldn't he release the Democratic memo without any redactions? Now, let me say this, though. We read the Republican memo on air. Personally, and I've tweeted this out, it wasn't even clear to me what the classified stuff in that memo was. There certainly didn't seem to be like big state secrets in the Republican memo. I'd be hard pressed to find places in the Republican memo where the info given out would have revealed an intelligence source or compromised an intelligence source. Now, I may be wrong about that, but my point is that it's possible that the stuff in the Democratic memo, the classified and sensitive information there, is stuff which is much more likely to compromise an intelligence source, is more sensitive or is more sensitive information than the info in the Republican memo, which the FBI and DOJ wanted to redact. So, it's hard to say. If on the one hand, somebody might argue, well, if you're not going to if you're going to allow the Republican memo to be released without redactions, you should allow the Democratic memo to be released without redactions. But somebody else might say, well, no, the material in the Democratic memo is much more sensitive and dangerous to release. Now, I don't know what the proposed redactions in the Democratic memo are, and none of us do. So unless you're a White House insider or a DOJ or FBI insider or a Congress insider. So without that information, it's kind of hard to judge this question of like, is it fair to not release the Democratic memo without redactions when you release the Republican memo without redactions? It's kind of hard to really determine whether that's fair or not until we have a better idea of what the proposed redactions in the Democratic memo are. Let's see if there are any more comments here. Doggy Fashion says, maybe in the Democratic memo there are names of traitors that they are still assembling cases against, if that made any sense. So it sounds like you're just saying like this could be a case where there's somebody mentioned in the Democratic memo who's someone who they're building a case against who they don't want it to be revealed yet. And I mean, we can imagine different cases of there could be a mention of there could be info which I'll say again, there could be info which might tell, say, the Russian government that a certain person is a mole in the Russian government. I don't know. Again, it's so hard to say because we haven't seen the Democratic memo. Benji Cowger says, could the Democrats have poison-pilled the Democratic memo in an attempt to make Trump bad by not releasing it? Well, Benji, apparently you didn't see the start of our stream because at the start of our stream we talked about the Fox News article on this, and that's what Trey Gowdy said in an interview with Fox this week. He claimed that the Democrats are politically smart enough to put things in the memo that have to be redacted. And also a source told Fox News that the memo was filled with sources and methods taken from the original documents. The source argued this was done to strategically force the White House into either denying release of the memo or significantly redacting it, so Democrats could accuse the White House of making redactions for political reasons. I have no idea if what Trey Gowdy said or this source said was accurate, but that's what they claimed. Anti-communist wrote in, he or she says, I meant blocked as in obstructed. Just because someone is blocking doesn't mean a goal can't be scored. Now, you're saying the Democrats obstructed the first memo from being released. Well, a lot of Democrats complained about the first memo from being released, and maybe you're saying in complaining about it and warning about it being released, that maybe obstructed its being released because it made the president less likely to release it. But they weren't able to vote against it, and they didn't stop the president. They didn't really have the power to obstruct it because it was up to the House Intel Committee and the president whether to release that memo. And those are House Intel committees composed by Republicans. Contains a majority of Republicans. Sorry. But thank you for writing, anti-communist. So we're covering the story about the Democratic memo. President Trump saying for now he's not going to release it. He's insisting that certain redactions be made in the memo, redactions of sensitive and classified material. He says these redactions have been recommended by the FBI and the DOJ, and indeed, along with the letter from the White House telling the House Intelligence Committee about this, there is supposedly a letter from the director of the FBI and the Deputy Attorney General, if I'm getting that right, Deputy Attorney General, saying that they agree that there should be certain redactions in the Democratic memo before it's released. Jason Thornton wrote a message, and Jason Thornton says, judging by the way our president operates, he's making the Democrats double down on their swampy pack of lies. Trump seems to never do anything without a plan, so we should trust he has our best interest at heart. The swamp rats are deathly afraid of the next few memos coming out, as in not only implicates everyone all the way up to the Obozo administration, including MSM 13. No wonder the talking heads are exploding. Thank you for reporting the real news, not fake news. Regards, Jason Thornton, RSBN loyalist, By the way, Colluder News Network sucks. Thank you, Jason, for writing. So we're taking your comments on the air about this story. I am at @Lookner on Twitter. Write to me at @Lookner. You can follow me at @Lookner if you like breaking news. I cover breaking news all the time on my Twitter, @Lookner on Twitter. Also, subscribe to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube so you know when we're coming on the air with these live news videos. Click the notifications bell when you subscribe so you get notifications. You can follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting, and on Twitter @RSB Network. And thank you so much to our moderators in the chat room. We got JC in the YouTube chat tonight, and Common Sense and Gleno on the website. Real Frank and Jan are also in the YouTube chat room. Thank you guys for moderating. And thanks to those of you who donated. We are a viewer-supported network. Your donations are what keeps us on the air. If you want to support Right Side Broadcasting, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat, click on the $ sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Let me just do a quick news check and see if there's any other updates about this Memo story in the last few minutes. Oh, by the way, someone wrote in and said my headline, refuses to release the Democratic memo, is a misleading CNN headline. Look at the AFP headline. Trump declines to declassify Democratic memo. Okay, let's see. Does this Jamie Dupree article have anything different? Oh, I think there's a Nancy Pelosi quote in this one. So this is Jamie Dupree's article about this. President Trump refuses to release Democratic memo. Another headline similar to ours. Blah, 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 blah. Nancy Pelosi says, the hypocrisy is on full display. What does the president have to hide? So that's Nancy Pelosi's comment on this. As we just said, the White House letter says the Democrats can try and rewrite the memo and go through the same submission process, which includes a vote of the House Intelligence Committee and then a review by the White House. Oh, another quote about Jamie Dupree says, Democrats were not pleased with the decision. Senator Richard Blumenthal said, refusal to release Democratic response to Nunes memo, evidence of obstruction of justice by Donald Trump happening in real time. Is that really true? Is the refusal to release the memo evidence of obstruction of justice by Donald Trump? I'm not sure. Representative Jim McGovern said, Americans deserve the truth and this only raises more red flags. One House Republican said he wanted President Trump to release the memo, and this was the wrong move. This House Republican, Justin Amash from Michigan, said, I've read both memos. Neither one endangers national security. The American people deserve the opportunity to read both memos. So this Republican has read the Democratic memo, and he thinks, look, the stuff in there is not going to endanger national security. President Trump should just be cool with them releasing it. It's so hard to assess that claim because we haven't seen the Democratic memo. So, I think after we read the Democratic memo, we might have a better idea of whether it endangers national security, but we can't read it yet. So it's really hard to assess these claims because we haven't seen the memo. So that was a nice article from Jamie Dupree. Okay, thank you, Jamie Dupree, for your reporting. Let me see if there's any other feedback here. We have a quote from Chuck Schumer. As Chad Pergram from Fox reports, Chuck Schumer says about the president's refusal to release the memo, the Democratic memo, the president's double standard when it comes to transparency is appalling. The rationale for releasing the Nunes memo, transparency, vanishes when it could show information that's harmful to him. Millions of Americans are asking one simple question, what is he hiding? So that's what Chuck Schumer says about President Trump's refusal to release the Democratic memo today. Chad Pergram reports the House Intel Committee could override Trump's decision on the Democratic memo. This could lead to a secret session on the House floor. Only 6 such secret sessions in U.S. history. Now, I don't know But then down here, Mike Stern says, actually, if the president doesn't object personally and in writing, they don't need to go to the floor. Correct. But I don't know if either the House Intel Committee can release this memo themselves or they can ask the House to vote on it. But I don't know if they'll do either of those things because that committee is controlled by the Republicans. I would be a little surprised if the Republican-controlled House Intelligence Committee chose to release the memo after President Trump said he didn't want it released in its current form. I'd be a little surprised at that. But maybe I'll be wrong. Does the CNBC article have anything new? So, again, a couple people said your headline is misleading. Our headline is basically the headline everybody's running. Trump refuses to declassify Democratic response to GOP Russia memo. It's similar to our headline. Okay, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I don't know if there's a... I was just seeing if there's anything new in here. I didn't really see anything new in this article that we hadn't talked about already on the live stream. Write to me if you have comments. I'm at Lookner, at LOOKNER. Let me know what you think about this story. At Lookner on Twitter. I'm not seeing anything else. Did Nancy Pelosi tweet about this, maybe? Yes, Nancy Pelosi tweeted about it. Here's the quote. I already read the quote, but you can see it was a tweet by her. This move by President Trump confirms what we've all known for weeks, that his decision to release the Nunes memo was a blatantly political move made without concern for national security. The hypocrisy is on full display. What does the president have to hide? Hey, Ophelia posted a picture of her watching us on TV. Thank you, Ophelia. Stable Deplorable says, I would not doubt the Democratic memo is a Schumer trap. Wants Trump to release something that would hurt the country. Rocky Sanchez sent us this. Where did that go, Rocky Sanchez? Hang on. Rocky Sanchez is so odd. On one of my computers, I can see your post, and on the other one, I can't. Why is that the case? See if I can find it here. Did you delete it, Rocky? It's not here. It's gone. I was going to show it on the air. Karen L. Berry, our viewer, writes in, Trump is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Everyone has said he shouldn't redact anything or the Democrats will make him look bad, so he is putting it on the intelligence community. Let's see here. Deborah Herzog writes in, the Democrats are retaliating against whistleblowers, exposing them. They should not be allowed tit for tat by throwing together another memo. This is ridiculous. It's just more of the Democrats obstructing justice. The Nunes memo should be dealt with as possible. James Mins writes in, will every release of investigations findings be subject to this type of rebuttal? This is what is being determined. Royal Kitty says, any response from Adam Schiff? Good question, Royal Kitty. Let me see. Yes, Adam Schiff posted a tweet 6 minutes ago. He said, after ignoring urging of FBI and DOJ not to release misleading Nunes memo because it omits material facts, the president now expresses concern over sharing precisely those facts with public and seeks to send it back to the same majority that produced the flawed Nunes memo to begin with. That's Adam Schiff's response. By the way, one other story I want to quickly mention. I don't want to get diverted onto it because then we end up, we try to keep our streams on one story here. And I haven't really had time to read about it because I've been following this story. But hang on a second. Yeah, a White House speechwriter resigned today amid domestic abuse claims. So I'm going to do some more reading about this when I get off the air. I already posted it on my Twitter. I just haven't had a chance to really, we were getting on the air with this, so I haven't had a chance to really get into the story myself. Oh, Joe just said, where's the ticker? Joe, I don't know, man. Stuff doesn't work once in a while. That's where it is. Stupid. What's going on? Why isn't it working? Where is the ticker? Where is the ticker? I'm so confused here. There's no ticker, guys. Ugh. So confusing. I think I got it. Let's see here. Where is it? Okay, there's that. Let me just find it. Oops. I'm so confused. I'm going to have to fix the ticker after. This is very confusing. I am utterly confused right now as to where the ticker is. Just gone. All right, hang on a second. Look at that. That's what happened. Whoa, I didn't want to do that. That's the ticker, but I don't want it looking like that. All right, I got to figure the ticker. I'm sorry, guys. The ticker's not there. I got to figure it out after the broadcast. Very confused. Oh, Rocky Sanchez sent us this. Rocky Sanchez says, Steve, my cat loves to watch Right Side Broadcasting breaking news. Very nice. Curtis Klinsman says, the Democrats plan this to make Trump look biased. It's no surprise at all. Caden writes, Steve, Trump may be taking his cue from the House Intel Committee, which declined to release the Democrats' memo. He would be wrong to override it. Well, no, they voted to release it. They declined at first to release it, and then last week they voted to release it. Caden continues, he would be wrong to override them when they have voted on the issue, but perhaps he can convince them to redact the info and then release it. So the House Intelligence Committee voted to not release the Democratic memo at the same time as the Republican memo, but then they voted last week to release the Democratic memo. I have some more news on this memo coming from reporter Mark Knoller. He says, in response to White House letter, Adam Schiff says Democrats will review FBI concerns about the memo so that it might not be released and so that it might yet be released and American people informed about the misleading attack on law enforcement by the GOP. So the Democrats will review the FBI concerns about the memo. Maybe they will do some redactions and the memo will be released. I don't know, but that's the latest there. All right, I'm going to make my last call for comments here on this story. I think we've summed up the news by now and given you some Democratic responses and talked about what might happen next. If you have any comments, give me a shout on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Greg Jackson writes in, according to Rosenstein and Wray, Deputy Attorney General and FBI Director, by their letter, both have significant concerns. Yes, they have expressed concerns about this memo, which the White House cited. The White House letter included the letter from Rosenstein, I think it's Rosenstein and Wray. But I have not seen the Rosenstein and Wray letter yet. Actually, it would make sense that we won't see the Rosenstein and Wray letter, I bet, because I would assume the Rosenstein and Wray letter says, here are the passages we have concerns about. But if those passages are classified, we won't see their letter because then we'd be seeing the classified material. Okay, so I'm guessing we won't see the Rosenstein and Wray letter. Jason Thornton, I see your request about crappy movie night. Yes, we have noted this request. Thank you. Jason says, please harass Joe to do it for us. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up this stream in a moment. Grant says it is Schiff flush it. That's what Grant says about the Democratic memo. So I think we're going to wrap up this stream, but I want to thank everybody who sent in your comments for us to read. And thank you to our moderators so much, JC, Real Frank, and Jan in the chat room on YouTube, and Common Sense and Gleno on the website. And thank you to everybody who donated. We are viewer supported. If you like our coverage, if you like having an alternative to mainstream media, please donate, because that's the only way we can stay on the air. If you want to donate, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat room, click on the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And thank you to everybody on Facebook for watching, as well as on YouTube. Appreciate you choosing Right Side Broadcasting. I might actually take a second and give a shout out to some of the Facebook viewers and see what's going on in their chat room, because I never usually get a chance to do that. Thank you, people saying thanks in the YouTube chat. We got Marissa, Sound, DM, Kitty's in there, Swoosh, Susan Reynolds, Kenneth Vaughn, Miss Rob Mob, Bernard Jackson, Larissa's Lighthouse, Michael Lockridge, Mokal Jordan, Jesus Freak Jean, Rocky Sanchez, Fred Golubiowski, Jason Thornton, Barry H., Sharon O'Neill, Swoosh, and in the Facebook chat, always takes a little while to open the Facebook chat. Who do we got there? Diane from South Philly is there. Diana Smiley Allheiser is there. Thank you guys for watching. Clint Catalan, thank you for watching. Jason Parente, Tina Lejeune, Rochelle Andros, Randall McPherson, thank you all for watching. Ridgeway Mary, thank you for watching on Facebook. All right, we're going to wrap up this stream. Appreciate you all joining us tonight. And if there's big news later, we will come on the air. So subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified when we're coming on the air. But we're going to wrap this up right now. And a couple other quick thanks. Thanks, Jace Heater, for saying thanks. Thank you to Grumpy J for saying thanks. Thank you, DDV, for saying thanks. All right, going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, everybody. If there's more news, we'll be on with it. But for now, I am Steve Lookner. From all of us here at Right Side Broadcasting, have a great night, and we'll see you soon with more news here at RSBN.